I'm Linda Godfrey. We're on the UW-Whitewater campus, and this beautiful brick tower that dates from the early 1880s is known around campus as one of the most haunted places. It's usually called the Witches Tower because of a legend that on certain nights you can see hooded figures dancing around it. There's also a cemetery nearby, and then there's Wells Hall, which is allegedly haunted. I lived there once myself, and there were some strange events that occurred. And just outside of Wells Hall, the legend goes, there is buried an oak altar that used to belong to the Witches' Coven that actually was believed to have taken over this little part of the city back around the turn of the century. Supposedly, the Book of Death recorded the names of people who were once involved with the Witches' Covens that were supposed to have run over Whitewater back in the 1800s. And this book was still here. And the story went that any student who opened that book and looked at those names would die themselves. There are supposed to have been several students that have succumbed to this curse over the years, but there's no record of them ever actually having done so. And yet, this book is still rumored to be down in the basement of the library. And the truth is that the librarians here do have a very beautiful old antique book that they like to bring out as an example of what a book with a curse in it like that should look like. But they do not actually have such a book or such a list. And neither this campus library nor the public library a few blocks over will admit to having any such list or ever having had. And yet, the legend of the Book of Death on the Whitewater campus persists. Back in 1969 through 1971, I lived in Wells Hall, and the big thing among all the students was to do seances, which was not permitted because you weren't permitted to burn candles. But what we did would be stuff a towel under the crack in the door so that the RA couldn't see candle burning. Well, one night we had done that, and the people who were conducting the seance all of a sudden got real nervous and excited and flipped on the light. And although we'd been sitting in a circle with our hands holding hands and our knees touching, somehow the towel we had stuffed under the crack in the door had flung itself to the other side of the room. And that was the last seance I ever went to in Wells Hall. We are in the middle of Whitewater's beautiful Effigy Mounds Park. And these were amazing artworks built by the Indians that were here long before the settlers came. When settlers came, the Sac and Fox and Ho-Chunk and other tribes that were already here had no idea who really built these, although now archaeologists think they may have been built by ancestors of the Ho-Chunk. But the truth is, this is Whitewater's fourth cemetery that nobody talks about. Everybody talks about the original 3 cemeteries in town that form a perfect isosceles triangle. But if you look at the location of this, it adds a 4th point to make double triangles, a diamond shape or double triangles. And this area is very sacred to all Native Americans alive today, and so we treat it with utmost respect. But it should not be forgotten that Whitewater has this 4th cemetery that greatly predates the 3 in town. There are 3 cemeteries in the city of Whitewater, and then there's a 4th out here right on the outskirts that very much predates those 3. And if you look at the 3 in town that form a perfect isosceles triangle, and then look at the location of this one. So I think that it's really great to remember that there is a 4th cemetery that, if you're looking at geometry, this makes a double triangle rather than just a single triangle with 3 in town. We are at Calvary Cemetery, and these are the graves of the Lima axe murder victims, John and Patrick Fanning, who were killed in 1950 by their own nephew, who was trying to get money from them so he could buy a car and take his girlfriend for a ride. He ended up killing both of his uncles with an axe, and it was quite a gruesome scene. He eventually was captured, brought back to Wisconsin, and stood trial and was convicted for murder. Morris Pratt, who died in 1902, was the founder of the unique institution known as the Pratt Institute. This was a college for spiritualists. They had a building in town that locals called the Spook House, and it was known especially for the 3rd floor seance room that was decorated completely in white. It wasn't a popular feature to the townspeople, and there was a lot of controversy over it, but it was very well attended, very known in its day, and you could read the local newspapers and see exactly what topics were being presented at the Spiritualist College every week in their Sunday services. And he's buried right here on Hillside Cemetery overlooking the beautiful lake, and has one of the nicest spots in the cemetery to rest in, I might add.